After days of relative silence, President Biden is now speaking out about the escalation of violence in the Middle East, saying that he supports a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. The conflict there has now entered into its second week. Israel once again unleashed on Gaza, targeting Hamas tunnels in an effort to root out senior leadership. But as we have seen time and time again, so often it's the young and the innocent who are caught right in the middle. We watched images today of first responders in Gaza combing through the rubble for survivors. Meanwhile, in Israel, a rocket destroyed this home. The residents inside were able to get to shelter with just seconds to spare. With the eyes of the world once again on this region, many are asking, what will it take to finally end this conflict in both the short and long term? Matt Gutman leads us off on the ground in Israel.
Tonight, Israel unleashing a ferocious aerial assault, saying it targeted Hamas tunnels in the Gaza Strip. A top commander of the group Islamic Jihad killed in this blast. And these terrified children cowering in fear as bombs exploded nearby. In its second week, the latest spasm of violence escalating with unexpected speed. The U.S. now facing growing pressure to call for an immediate ceasefire. Today's bombardment coming less than 24 hours after Israel's single deadliest strike on Gaza. Buildings flattened, 42 killed, including children. The hospitals in Gaza stretched to the limit. They were already struggling to cope with COVID. Now they're treating the wounded. Today, some ambulances taking the injured into Egypt for medical care. And on the ground in Gaza, rescuers using their bare hands, clawing at the debris of collapsed buildings. This little girl, encrusted with blood and dust, pulled out alive, carried in rescuers' arms to an ambulance. And beside one of those debris piles was Mohammed Hadidi, wailing in anguish. He said his wife and 5 sons were visiting family at this home when the bombs came. An hour later, in a haze of grief, he was led into this hospital, and there a little miracle awaited. His son Omar, the father tenderly kissing his son, little Omar clutching his father's finger. So far, more than 200 Palestinians killed, nearly half women and children, and more than 1,400 wounded. On the Israeli side, 10 killed and 300 wounded. In Gaza, officials say 7,000 buildings have been damaged or destroyed, leaving nearly 40,000 people homeless. Gaza's infrastructure taking a hard hit. Its electric company saying the region could run out of power in a matter of days.
Because of the airstrikes conducted by Israel in our region, all municipal services are interrupted. Electricity, water, network and telecommunications are cut off. I have no idea when these essential municipal services will be restored.
And tonight, Israel also facing international condemnation for this attack, which leveled a building housing the Associated Press and Al Jazeera. Reporters seen rummaging through the rubble, trying to salvage what they could. Israel says Hamas was operating there, claiming it shared the intel with the U.S. But when Secretary of State Blinken was asked about that today,
I've not seen any information provided.
President Biden, whose administration says it's relying on quiet diplomacy, today calling Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu, saying for the first time publicly he supports a ceasefire. The Israeli military says Hamas has fired more than 3,300 rockets at Israel so far. Today, we were right beneath one of those barrages.
We just got out of our car. We're lying in a ditch here by the side of the road. You can see the Israeli soldier over there. Everybody in that checkpoint behind us also disappearing, trying to hide for cover. There's what seems to have been an interception overhead. You can hear the booms in Gaza. Right over there. And the sirens.
Israel keeping thousands of reservists on standby in preparation for a possible ground invasion. The southern city of Ashkelon targeted more than any other. A synagogue badly damaged over the weekend from Hamas rocket fire.
Jillian, nice to meet you.
And just a couple of blocks away is where we met Jillian Daniel 9 years ago. Her family hurrying to that bomb shelter. Today, we paid her another visit.
9 years ago, we were sitting right here.
Yeah.
And there were sirens, the rockets came raining down. Has anything changed?
No.
She suggests no progress at all in the past nearly decade. In a moment, we'll speak with a senior member of Hamas. Throughout this deadly conflict, each night we are seeking out voices on both sides. But first, Matt Gutman joins us once again. Matt, we learned that President Biden's expressing, quote, support for a ceasefire to end the conflict. How is the role of the U.S. being perceived there on the ground?
In Israel, at least, the U.S. role is paramount. And the perception is that once the United States actually gives something that sounds like an order to enter into a ceasefire, Israel will likely do it within a matter of at least a couple of days. But that hasn't quite happened. What we're seeing right now is President Biden, for the first time, expressing support for a ceasefire, which doesn't tell us that there's actually a ceasefire on the table. We don't know what the plan is. We don't know whether Egypt and Qatar and other countries are playing a role and what the actual parameters of a ceasefire might be, which leads the sources with whom I'm speaking here to say that at least for the next 48 hours or so, this conflict is likely to continue. One quick note. We were expecting a significant rocket barrage from Gaza tonight. Islamic Jihad said that it would target Tel Aviv because of the assassination of one of its leaders. Hasn't happened. Maybe that's a good sign. Lindsay.
Yeah, sounds peaceful, at least for the moment. And also, Matt, Israel is not allowing journalists or aid groups to enter Gaza at this time. Walk us through how challenging that makes it to get at the truth of what's going on.
We're hearing that Israel might start to allow a little bit of aid through over the next couple of days, but the main crossing into Gaza, that's the Erez crossing point, remains closed, as you mentioned, to aid groups and to journalists. And as the AP president and CEO recently said, the fact that their building was destroyed and the fact that they're not allowing foreign press in makes it harder to know what's really going on the ground. And we have requested to go in. We have asked multiple sources why this is, why they don't let us in. We have not received satisfactory answers, but obviously it makes reporting on the ground that much more difficult. That said, we have had a longtime producer on the ground in Gaza. His name is Sammy. He's done wonderful work and helped us out. But there's a different feel when you're actually reporting on the ground and you have your correspondent and reporter there just telling people stories. We have not had the opportunity to do that. Lindsay.
Okay. All right. Matt Gutman, our thanks to you once again.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.